It's time for the Wheeljack Showdown, where I pit two versions of the character against each other by discussing their strengths and weaknesses. I don't have the masterpiece version, so you won't see that here, but it doesn't matter, as that's not the point of this. The point is that most people seem to be complaining about the lackluster nature of these Combiner Wars repaints. The main argument seems that they are just repaints and have no reason to exist at all. Well, do they? I think it's important to go into a few more details after I've discussed the toys themselves, so we'll get to that later. Okay, so let's start off with the Generations version. This was pretty much the only Transformer I got when I took my first trip to America. And the first thing I did when I got back to the hotel was lose the two side guns. Still, they're not too important, so not much was lost, quite literally. Anyway, true to his G1 counterpart, Wheeljack transforms into a Lancia-ish car. Yeah, they kinda tiptoe around the licensing with this alt mode, but we all know what it is. All in all, it's a pretty good classics car. It has a certain swishness to it, reminiscent of Trax, whom he is a retool of. Honestly, this isn't too bad, all things considered. His window shape may not be as accurate as it could have been, but it's a lot more accurate than alternators. The paint's a bit minimalist in comparison to how he usually looks, but it's not that bad. I do wish they put some numbers on the side though. He looks quite bland without it. Still, that's the only flaw this guy has, aside from the ugly painted back window section. It creates some really annoying clash between the front and the back. Oh, and he looks pretty ugly from the underside. Ugh, looks like a car crash there. Now when it comes to vehicle mode, the Combiner Wars version is a bit of a weird one. He frequently switches between being better and worse in comparison to his older Chug counterpart. In terms of what's good, the moulding on this thing is far superior. It looks a lot more like Wheeljack, and although the Trax-ish feel of the older one is fine, there's just a bit more Wheeljack in this one. Furthermore, the black windows are much better than the grey and clear ones, and the silver hubcaps are a great improvement too. It's funny how the old one doesn't have silver hubcaps but the new one does, considering how paint decos have dropped in quality recently. Furthermore, the underside is far cleaner on the new version, and although the white is a little more accurate on... wait, hold on a second, switching between the two is getting difficult. Can I just call them Old Jack and New Jack? That's kid friendly, isn't it? Screw it, doing it. Old Jack has a far more accurate subdued white, whereas New Jack's is creamier, and just seems a lot more appealing. I also like the brighter green and red on New Jack. Yeah, it's not accurate, but it works a lot better for me. Sadly, there's just one big problem. He has hardly any paint. It's the only flaw in comparison to a bunch of really good things, but the flaw encompasses the whole mold and just makes it feel cheap. Yeah, when it comes to budget, I prefer paint to be skimped out instead of plastic quality, but I can't shake that nagging feeling from me. Well, at least he has numbers on his side, even if they do look like they were typed out in Microsoft Word. For a size comparison, they're about the same volume. Old Jack's a bit thinner and longer, whereas New Jack is shorter and bulkier. In terms of who I like better, it's a tough call. I think the new version actually wins out, but only by a bit. Oh, and I should probably mention the weapon storage on New Jack. He gets breakdown sword storage, which kinda looks dumb, and Sunstreaker's hand-foot gun storage, which looks awesome. Can't wait to get the banana car! The transformations on the two are drastically different, and you'd be surprised by which one I prefer. Old Jack's is the clear loser here, as he has a lot of good ideas that just get executed really poorly. The lower legs are okay, and I especially like the way the feet work. The backpack kibbles integration is fine as well, covering up what would be a hollow area. Other than that though, he just seems floppy. The way the wings fold out just seems cheap, and the automorph is really annoying and hard to do at times. The legs also don't go nearly as far up as they should, which is really dumb considering this was a design choice. Yeah, Trax was actually taller than Wheeljack because they stunted Wheeljack's growth. And as well as this, I haven't even gotten to the worst part. But for that, I'll save it for later because it is, in my opinion, the worst thing about this toy. New Jack's transformation feels far more satisfying. Yeah, it's simpler, but there's just something more clever about the chunky parts use that makes it fun, despite being a clear retool and using a cop-out chest transformation. Sure, the legs seem a little annoying at times with their fig art style hinges, but it's no disaster. All in all, it's a fun kind of transformation and I want to do it again. Whereas Old Jack is better off in vehicle mode where he takes up less space. Now, robot mode is where these guys display their flaws pretty prominently. I'll start off with New Jack this time, for reasons that will become apparent. He's quite a mixed bag here. While he cuts an impressive silhouette, he just doesn't feel like Wheeljack. The fact that he's a repaint becomes really apparent, with a lack of wings especially, and the backpack is utterly terrible. From the back, the legs just feel way too chunky too, although thankfully he uses an eye trick from the front with his paints to make them look thinner. Oh, and can someone please tell me how to plug this thing in? I mean... it's supposed to, I know it plugs in fine like that, but isn't there supposed to be a way where this slots in, or can Wheeljack not do that like Sunstreaker can? Because when I tried folding this up, it doesn't quite... it slots, but just kind of sits there. It doesn't really seem to be tight. Is it too loose because of the remold, or is it just weird? I mean, it's just floppy. I don't get it. Could someone please tell me if Wheeljack actually allows you to do the thing? I don't know. Do you have a death
Bert, maybe? Does anyone know? I don't know, just comment and let me know if it's able to be done or if it's not. Am I doing it wrong? I don't know, I haven't gotten Breakdown. Or the other mold mate, Sunstreaker. I haven't gotten them yet. Although Sunstreaker is on stack, along with quite a few things. Oh wait, I just forgot I need to get G2 Menasor because I've already bought the render form upgrade. Back to this so I can finish and order him. Wait, I don't have the cash for it. Hello from the other side.
Before continuing on with the paint, the head sculpt is also severely lacking. The oversized head crest and the wrong ear shapes just don't work. They make him look chibi.
Now that's a katana.
I just wanted to show off that scene, it's funny.
Also, need I mention... Oops, there goes Evasion Optimus. He doesn't have any light piping. Seriously. Where's the light piping? Nothing. 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 Seriously, Hasbro. And then there's not going to be any in Titan's Return. What are you doing? Get your together, man.
The paint's also an issue here, despite it working really well in the legs. Where they use it looks fine, but there's just not enough of it used. There's just way too much white here, and you have to give him his weapons just to break up the monotony. Come on, you couldn't even spare some black paint for the windows? Jeez, I hope repro labels can fix this. That being said, he's still decent for a Combiner Wars figure. I'll go through the other modes now, just to get him over and done with. Leg mode is okay, despite having an eyesore knee pad, and arm mode is also pretty good, despite being a little short. But hey, what's to be expected from Combiner Wars at this point? I mean, you've got a stellar line all around, mostly. For articulation, he's pretty much standard. His head is on a ball joint, he has ball jointed shoulders, a double jointed elbow with a ball joint, a waist swivel, ball jointed hips, a thigh swivel, and a knee bend. The last one looks really ugly as the knee detaches from his body in a weird way and the inside of his legs are hollow as hell. Not as bad as Brawl though, because he hides them pretty well. He's not a bad figure. Yeah, he's underwhelming, but I like him a lot. I do wish I could say the same about Old Jack. The out of place windshield just doesn't work here. I will give him this. He has a far better head sculpt with excellent light piping, and the backpack's not as bad as New Jack's, and his paint is a lot better. Sadly though, that's about it. The windshield is all wrong, being too boxy for him to look like a scientist. The legs are way too short for him, and he looks utterly terrible from the back. Hollow as hell. The wings also look really cheap, and the top section looks even more hollow. And worst of all, the shoulders won't stay together. They pose fine, but they add barely enough friction, and they're always popping off when you don't want them to. This plays hell with the transformation too, which I was alluding to earlier. Do you have any idea how many times it fell off during filming? No, we're not doing that again. I'm not doing a montage. Just put up a number on the screen or something. Oh, and the wheels are mistransformed here, but I like the arms this way. They're less likely to fall off. And can I just touch on the hollowness again? I find it hilarious that New Jack does such a minute thing to cover up the hollow sections that are barely a problem. Yet Old Jack, who came from a time where Hasbro had far more complex transformations, leaves most of it gappy. I will give him this though. The weapon storage is cool. It only just lets off the atrocious backpack. So, how are these guys? Well, honestly, I can't recommend either of them. Old Jack is really showing his age, despite coming from a line where they got really engineered well. He just gets the crap beaten out of him by other toys from the same toy line. Like, didn't he come out during the War for Cybertron toys? Hell, even older toys seem to do better than he does. He barely scrapes by with 2 stars. It's not terrible, but he's a flavor of the month type redesign who was considered great when he came out simply because he existed. I think it's time we put him to bed. New Jack's not fantastic as a standalone figure, but considering how as a combiner, a few things have to be sacrificed. Honestly, if he had a lot more paint, he'd be fine. But even with the Takara paint job, a lot of fans just won't think he's good enough. They'll demand more. And although I'm fine, I don't think you will be. He gets 3 stars, and I'd say pick him up if he comes cheap, or if you really like the car mode, although you could always wait for Takara's Computron, so even then I'm not too sure. Next time, we return to my roots with another KO, another Optimus Prime, another Evasion KO. But let me tell you, you've never seen a knockoff like this before. I guarantee you that this is the best representation of Movieverse Optimus Prime you have ever seen as of 2016. I don't always give away review titles, but since this is such a big event, I present, for your enjoyment, Wei Jiang, Knockoff, Evasion, MO1, Commander, Age of Extinction, Optimus Prime. Not necessarily in that order! Oh, and I guess Quake Wave's down the line too. Not straight after, but sometime.